One has Johnny Dollar.
Dave Hopkins, Johnny. Camden Life and Fidelity. Got a German visa?
Well, I sleep with it under my pillow, Davy.
If you want, Berlin, your next port of call. Want it?
Now, what's the story, Davy?
It's like this, Johnny. A client of ours, Sam Harvey, category 50,000, 20 paid life. A couple of years ago, Harvey went to Berlin as consulting engineer for a machine tool firm. 6 months ago, he upped his policy from 10 to 50,000.
Good head on his shoulders.
Just listen, huh? Also, he changed beneficiaries from his mother to a woman he married over there.
Well, that's allowed, isn't it, Davy?
Maybe, maybe not. Yesterday, we got a cable from Berlin police. Here, Sam Harvey is newly dead in the Rhineland. Well, Johnny?
Okay, Dave, you named it. Berlin.
How about taking a minute or so to talk about seals and fish that have some connection with the government of the United States? Now, that isn't as strange as it sounds. You take the matter of seals, for example. There are two types of seals that are the responsibility of the Secretary of State. First, there's the Great Seal of the United States, which is stamped on all official documents. The Secretary of State makes sure it's always on hand when it's needed. The other kind of seals he takes care of are the ones that swim in the ocean, since it's up to the Secretary to work out agreements with representatives of other countries and let them know how many seals can be caught in what is called international waters and when. The Secretary of State works out similar deals for the catching of fish and lobsters because these agreements are actually treaties. Before they can be put into effect, they have to be approved by 2/3 of the Senate. As a matter of fact, any time our government wants to work out a deal with a foreign country on trade, mutual assistance, fish, seals, or lobsters, it's done by treaty. And all treaties are signed by the President, though some of them aren't drawn up until after the Secretary of State has worked over the rough spots in order to pave the way for prompt ratification. So, just remember, the Secretary of State is a mighty important wheel in the machinery of your United States government.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Camden Life and Fidelity Company Limited, Camden, New Jersey. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Berlin matter. Expense account item 1, $546.73, airfare and incidentals to Berlin via New York City. Item 2, $3.10, cab fare, Tempelhof Airport, American Zone, to the Waldenstern Hotel, where I registered, sent my luggage to my room, then went on to the red granite pile called Police Headquarters on the Wilhelmstrasse. Here, a sub-lieutenant saw my credentials, listened to my story, and ushered me to the proper Oberlieutenant.
Meissner, Wilhelm Meissner.
I'm Johnny Dollar.
Would you wish to know of the death of Sam Harvey, no?
Everything you can tell me.
So, last Tuesday, the body of Herr Harvey was found in the harbor there. Papers he carried made possible his identification, and his being an American national, therefore proper authorities were notified, as well as proper information on proper forms, as well as...
Can I see these forms, Lieutenant?
Of course. Here, as you please.
Thank you. Says here his body was found just north of Spandau. Where's Spandau, Lieutenant?
British zone.
Well, what would Sam Harvey be doing there?
Please.
Well, it says here Sam was employed by Koenig Machine Tool, which it also says here is in the American Zone. So I'd like to know, Lieutenant, if you have any idea what he was doing.
I will show you something. It will make things easier.
Good.
Map of Berlin. French zone, British zone, American, Russian.
Uh-huh.
And here is Spandau, on the harbor there. Above it, north, French zone.
So?
My guess is your Sam Harvey died somewhere in the French zone, was thrown into the harbor river, which currents carried him down to here, to the harbor there, where he was found.
But that's only a guess.
Unofficial. Official, it would be written down, but it is not.
Why do you make a guess like that, Lieutenant?
You see, here, the suburb, Eagle, and the French zone, it is trackless.
What does that mean?
Rough. Tough. Now, Sam Harvey is certainly not the first man who was dumped into the Harbor River.
Dumped. Dump means murdered and pushed, Lieutenant.
Murdered and pushed.
Okay. What else?
You see here, in the file, positive identification made by Paul Turner.
Who is Paul Turner?
A friend of Herr Harvey. He claimed the body and buried it. Also, he took it upon himself to notify Herr Harvey's wife.
Why does it say wife?
No there, but I recall Herr Turner said Frau Harvey was in Vienna and that he would inform her of the death of her husband.
No, I think that's real friendly, don't you?
Please.
Never mind. Well, thanks, Lieutenant. Can I do something for you in return? A beer or something? Expense account item 3. 90 cents for 2 rounds of brown beer with my newly found friend, Lieutenant Willie Meister, at the beer stube across the street, where I told him all I knew about Milwaukee and got in return a promise of continued cooperation. Expense account item 4, $1.20 to number 15 Kendenstrasse in the American Zone. The address of Paul Turner.
That's right, Dollar. I identified him.
Who killed him, Mr. Turner?
Oh, now listen.
Yeah?
Don't get cagey with me and say who killed him and lean closer to me to see if I'm going to go to pieces. I didn't even know he was killed.
He was pushed into a river.
Listen, there was a beer festival up in the French zone last week. Tegel, a suburb. So you can figure it.
Sam got drunk and fell in the river? Not pushed?
That's the way I read it.
Did he ever say anything to you about all that insurance he carried?
No. Carried a lot, huh?
First it was 10, then a while back he upped it to
50,000?
That's right.
Well, she's worth it.
Who? Paul's wife?
Worth every nickel of it.
Which comes to a question.
Oh, you mean, where is she?
I mean, where is she?
She'll be here.
Her husband's been dead for 4 days.
Well, she's in Vienna.
Well, it must take all of, 3 hours flying time to get here from Vienna.
Listen, Dollar, I'm going to tell you something. Don't ask questions with raised eyebrows, like everybody's lying or covering up. A guy named Sam Harvey died, and there's been a lot of tears on account of it, so gentle your way around, huh? Make the questions come out polite.
You know, I'm going to try that.
Good.
What are you doing here in Berlin?
I have a civilian job with the Army. I interpret.
Oh? How do you like it?
Nice. See how we can get along if we try?
How come Paul's wife hasn't showed up for 4 days?
I have a wire here. Wait a minute. I'll read it to you. Illness gone. Arrived Tempelhof Airport this evening, 18 hours. Elsa.
Let me see it.
You read German, Johnny?
No. Are you going to meet her?
Right. Sure be glad to have you along, Johnny. Be nice. Fine.
Expense account item 5, $3.40, full tank of petrol for Paul Turner's Volkswagen. He had his hand trapped in his pants pocket. We had a little time before Elsa's plane landed at Tempelhof, so we rode around Berlin, a 3 zone. The 4th didn't encourage sightseers. At a little before 6, we got to Tempelhof.
Flug 39 vom Prag Budapest und Wien, Passagiere ungefähr Ausgang 3.
Oh, she's a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah. You'll know Mrs. Harvey when you see her?
You know, you ask polite, but you don't listen polite, Johnny Kid. I told you Sam's wife is worth every penny the 50 grand you say he left her. Now, would I say a thing like that if I didn't know her when I saw her?
Well, you hadn't mentioned it.
Now, before he married her, the 3 of us went around a bit in Vienna. Then Sam married her. And Elsa stayed in Vienna. I haven't seen her since. 6 months now.
Why did she stay in?
Yeah, that must be Elsa. See? Black dress, heavy black veil, black gloves. Classy dresser, that Elsa.
Yeah. Come on.
Elsa?
Bitte?
Paul Turner, Elsa. Don't you remember?
Oh, this veil, it is so... I will lift it. Oh, hello, Paul.
It's been a long time since we were together, Elsa.
A long time.
I'm sorry about it.
You, my husband's close friend, his dear friend, Paul.
Mrs. Harvey,
Bitte?
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Johnny Dollar, insurance investigator.
Bitte?
Insurance investigator means that I was sent here to investigate your husband's death for my company.
Well, it means he's got $50,000 for you, Elsa, but first he's got to ask.
Please, Paul, let the gentleman speak.
I'll have to ask you where you were when your husband died.
In Vienna.
Why did you live in Vienna, Mrs. Harvey, and your husband in Berlin?
I have worked in Vienna. Work I cannot leave. With the Refugee Commission. Sam had his work here. We lived there as we wanted and as we needed. You are finished, Mr. Dollar?
Well, no, I'm not quite finished. No.
Paul, please.
You finished, Dollar, for now. Come on, Elsa. I'll get you through customs.
Expense account item 6, $2.20. Cab fare back to the Walden Stern Hotel. Item 7, $1.50. Supper. Knockwurst and sauerkraut washed down with black beer. After which, 10 hours sleep with no dreams.
Dollar? Johnny Dollar?
Sir? Oh, yeah, this is Johnny Dollar.
Good morning. Here is Wilhelm Meissner.
Oh, good morning, Willie. Goodbye, Willie.
Oh, do not wish me farewell, Herr Dollar.
Well, all right, Willie. You want to chat?
Yeah, I would like it. However, this is official, or else I would apologize for awakening you. I have just received word from the police in the British Zone.
About what?
About a barge.
A barge?
Yes, a barge. The river barge Fleetfrau on the harbor there. The touches Pier 12 of Spandau. You will come.
Wait a minute, Willie. I'd
An
like to...
official car will be outside your hotel. You will awake, dress, and come.
Here, on the barge, Dollar. Come here. Yeah, here, Dollar.
Well, only yesterday it was Willie and Johnny. What's happened?
Come here, please, to the pilot's cabin. In, Herr Dollar.
Wow. Who's he?
The man who is dead, with a bullet in the nape of his neck.
Yeah, that one.
Kurt Hausmann, captain pilot of this barge. Observe what else, Herr Dollar.
What?
On the desk, under his arm, complete close with me. A letter Herr Pilot Hausmann has begun to write. It is, of course, in German. I will translate it. If you wish of Sam Harvey to know, come you to the barge. Now I will move his arm. You see to whom this letter is addressed?
To me.
To you, Johnny Dollar. What do you say to that?
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He was the second vice president to become president. The son of a poor family, he was indentured to a clothmaker as apprentice at 15. And when he was 19, he bought his freedom for $30. As a congressman from New York in 1837, he opposed the entrance of Texas as a slave territory. During his administration, the country was strongly pro-slavery. And as a protest, Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. The anti-slavery group in his party strongly resented his signing a bill which penalized anyone who refused to return runaway slaves to their rightful owners. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more clue. His administration saw California's entrance into the Union. Who was he? Millard Fillmore, 13th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Herr Dollar, since you have arrived, you have talked with people. With me, with Paul Turner. At Tempelhof Aerodrome, with a widow. What words did you speak to them, Johnny Dollar, that makes this man dead?
Read it this way, Willie. I'm on a job. Insurance investigator.
Yeah, into the dying of Sam Harvey.
Into the murder of Sam Harvey. $50,000 worth.
So, perhaps you have discovered a thing which I, too, should know of the death of Sam Harvey, which will explain this death. If that is so, then tell me.
So far, I've found nothing. Nothing you don't know already. Not one thing.
Please.
I tell you, I don't...
Please. I believe you.
Well, you've got a way with you, Willie.
Schöne Danke.
You want to tell me things now?
Happily, I do.
This Kurt Hausman. Who is he?
Pilot of a river barge.
What else?
Thief, petty, also grand.
What else?
Before he grew out of it, a black marketeer.
And after that, what?
Smuggler. From west to the east zone. Also vice versa. Very rich.
And still you let him get away?
Please.
Go ahead.
Kurt Hausman, besides what he was also an eel. You understand? A slippery eel. Many times arrested, many times released. Insufficient evidence. An eel.
And he's murdered on the Havel River and found at Spandau, near the
French zone, where also was found the body of Sam Harvey, where...
Please.
Forgive me.
Near the French zone, where also was found the body of Sam Harvey. And he begins a letter to me saying if I want to know about Sam
Which
Harvey...
will become an exhibit on the official files.
Which figures he knew something about Harvey's death.
I would say so.
Then someone stopped him from getting the letter to me.
I would say so.
And that's all?
No. Kurt had a friend, a beloved friend, Fräulein Mary Fuller. She came with a troop 4 years ago to entertain your occupation forces. She entertained them. When they left, she stayed. Unter den Linden was what she wanted, she says.
Where do I find her?
Where do we find her?
Yeah, you and me. Where?
At Zehlendorf. There's a carnival there.
A carnival?
Yeah, waxworks, the hula dancers, knife throwers. Fräulein Mary stands in front and beckons so.
Well, we just better see this Fraulein, Willie.
Yeah, after the ambulance has taken away the body of Herr Hausmann. There she is.
Hey, now that's your culture's right inside. We got a snake charmer and we got a... Now, here's a Yankee Doodle, if I ever saw one. And dandy.
Hiya.
And look who you've got to be with.
Fräulein.
Go away, Willie. I'm earning a living.
It is necessary to talk to you, Fräulein.
You too?
It'll be my pleasure.
Doll.
Something has happened, Fräulein. Kurt.
What about him?
He is dead. Fräulein, I'm sorry, but sometimes it becomes necessary for me.
There's a bench over there.
He was a bum. You know that, don't you? Sure you know that.
Fräulein, please, sit down.
Thank you, Willie. How did Kurt die, Willie?
By a bullet in the back of the neck.
How else would he die?
He was writing a letter to me when he was shot.
Oh?
Why would he be doing a thing like that, Mary?
Who are you?
Johnny Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
Why? I mean, why? Why are you here now talking to me in front of a tourist trap? And with Willie here, what's happening?
Just take it easy.
That's the latest word. Just take it easy. All right, okay. Brave smile. How is it?
Fine. Great.
Questions, Fräulein?
Whenever you're ready.
Do you know who killed Kurt, Fräulein?
No.
Fräulein, 5 days ago, an American by the name of Sam Harvey was found in the harbor there, drowned. Did you know him?
Old Sam Harvey.
What about him?
He was a thief.
How?
The barge on the river.
Kurt's barge?
Sam owned it with Kurt. Anything illegal that could be done on the river. Smuggling, black market, name it. Anything from Potsdam and up the canals all the way to Hamburg. If it was illegal and could be carried by barge, my Kurt and good old Sam Harvey.
I thought Sam was a machine tool engineer.
Only when the barge business was slow.
Did you know his wife?
Practically.
What does that mean?
I was her shopper. Sam would give me money and say, buy for Elsa. Presents. Silk stuff they make over in the French zone. Leather from the British zone. Lots of these ceramic earrings, see, like I'm wearing?
Yeah, real nice.
Just make them for pierced ears. Sam showed a pair of them to Kurt, and Kurt made me pierce my ears so I could wear them, too.
Yeah?
Sam would get me to buy sweaters and woolens for her. Buy them and send them to her.
To Vienna?
Sure.
One more thing. You know a lad named Paul Turner?
No. You want me anymore, Willie? Thanks. Hey, mein Herr, Fraulein, now come on in. Now come on in. We got a snake charmer. We got a nice
I asked Willie to drop me off at Paul Turner's in the American zone. There, I asked Turner the address of Sam's widow, Elsa Harvey. He sent me to the Tyrol Hotel, where on the third floor rear, Elsa opened a door to me.
What do you wish here?
To make an apology, Mrs. Harvey.
Consider you have done so. Good day, Herr Dollar.
And to do another thing. To give you the papers you'll need to sign, so you can get that $50,000 insurance of your husband's.
Come in. Give them to me.
Sure. Take your time about it, Mrs. Harvey. Read them over. I'll wait till you're finished.
A messenger will bring them to you.
Yeah, sure he will. Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
You're a very beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. You always wear your hair like that? Long, falling to your shoulders? Do me a favor.
What?
Put your hair up for me.
Put my... I don't understand you.
Oh, please. Just to see how you look. I've been wondering. Yeah. Yeah, like that.
Und was, Herr Dollar?
Well, I've already said it. You're a very beautiful woman.
You must go.
Sure. Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen, Herr Dollar.
Expense account item 8, $1.30. Cab fare to the small carnival in Zehlendorf. And a girl who stood there and dared people to come in. To ask her for an address, I guess she must know. She'd sent so many presents to it. Expense account item 9, $63.95, airfare and incidentals to Vienna. Expense account item 10, cab fare, $1 even, to a red brick apartment building 5 stories high and a block square.
Frau Harvey?
That's right.
Mrs. Harvey is dead.
When?
Yesterday morning, early.
Listen, did she get a wire from Berlin last Tuesday?
Yes, she did. But of course she could not read it. I gave it to the other lady.
What other lady?
Her friend, who lives across the hall, who was kind to her and took care of her, who paid for her funeral.
And who moved out right after it was over?
Yes, but how did you know?
Yeah? Oh.
The widow Harvey inside, Paul?
Uh-huh.
You answer her door for her now?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to get past you to speak to her, huh?
Elsa,
Yes, boy.
it's Johnny Dollar.
Good.
Come on in.
Hello, Frau Harvey.
Here are the papers, Herr Dollar. I have signed them.
Oh, fine. Thank you.
What are you doing?
Tearing paper?
Are you going crazy, Dollar?
No. I always tear up policies this way, Paul.
What is the meaning of this?
What's your real name?
My name?
Cut it out, honey. This Dollar's no slob. How much do you know, Dollar?
All of it.
For instance.
Well, I just got in from Vienna. A girl died there. Sam Harvey's wife.
Mm-hmm. See, I told you he wasn't any slob, honey.
She was sick. Then she died. Her husband died. Why shouldn't I have the money in the policy? I took care of her
That's
and
not legal. That's all, honey.
How could he know, Paul? How could he possibly know?
By a stupid little slip. Earrings for pierced ears. Like Sam's wife had and like you don't. Which made me go to Vienna to make sure. And I did, and I'm sure.
Okay, Dollar.
Okay, what?
You tore up the policy. Blow.
Paul, you knew this girl was a phony right away at the airport. But you went along with her. I asked myself why.
You got an answer?
You're trying to hide something, too. Murder?
Yes, something's got to give, Dollar.
Sam's murder? Carl's?
You know what you know, and I know what I know. One of us has got to go.
Killed Sam because you wanted in on the barge business. The smuggling, the black market. But Carl. Why Carl, Paul? Why did you kill him?
He didn't want me in. So bad he didn't want me in, he threatened to get to you.
He almost did.
You almost got out of Germany, Dollar. But now I don't...
Mr. Dollar?
Yeah?
I hurt no one. I took care of her when she was sick. Even when she died, I paid to bury her. I took a chance, and I lost Mr. Dollar. Who can say I harmed anyone? And in Vienna, it's not very pleasant. Oh, please.
It's not for me to say. It's for another fellow. Name of Willie. Nice man. Very nice. Expense account item 11, $67.70. Hotel bill and incidentals while in Berlin and Vienna. Expense account total, $693.03. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Benny Rubin, Edgar Barrier, Jerry Gaylor, Hal March, and Virginia Gray. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at the same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Bob Creel, Johnny. Tri-State Limited.
Oh, hiya, Bob.
Listen, want to read your letter. It says, if you want to know who killed Martha Williams, you pay no mind to that person or persons unknown. Look close to home. Real close to home. Well, there you are.
Signed with that famous old name, I suppose.
Yep, anonymous. Postmarked Piney Corners, Pennsylvania. Martha Williams was killed a month ago. Shot. And we carried a $10,000 policy on her.
Who's the beneficiary?
Her husband, Ben Williams. He's a farmer there. The coroner's jury brought in an open verdict. We're about ready to pay off the policy, but now... How about it, Johnny?
Piney Corners, huh? All right, Bob. Provided I can find it on the map.
If I cut in for a few moments, fellas, I hope it won't start an argument. But if you'd like to get into an argument that will pay off 9 times out of 10, you just bet someone that the Treasury Department has its own Navy. Well, that happens to be true. It's a fact that the United States Coast Guard is an agency of the Treasury Department and has the job of seeing to it that any activity involving the coastal waters of our country is strictly within the law. The Coast Guard has many responsibilities to keep it busy. It assists ships and aircraft in distress, protects game, seal, and otter fisheries in Alaska, and maintains the International Ice Patrol in the North Atlantic. It operates lighthouses, light ships, beacons, and other aids to navigation, and removes wrecks and other floating dangers. In addition, the Coast Guard enforces laws and regulations relating to customs, navigation, neutrality, immigration, and quarantine. All peacetime jobs under the supervision of the Treasury Department. During wartime, however, the Coast Guard is attached to the United States Navy and acts directly under that branch of our military service. But whether it operates under the Treasury Department or the United States Navy, the Coast Guard is a mighty bulwark in the protection and defense of our country.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Tri-State Assurance Company Limited, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Piney Corners matter. Expense account item 1, $48.40. Transportation to Piney Corners. A town of 1,200 people, 1 inn, 1 restaurant, 1 general store, and 1 constable. A lantern-jawed man of middle age named Jake Finley.
Lived here all my life, Mr. Dollar. First murder we ever had. Don't rightly know just how to go about dealing with it.
Well, maybe between us we can come up with something.
I hope so. Ain't much I can give you in the way of facts, though. Clues, I guess you call them. The woman's dead, and that's about it. Could have been an accident, even.
What do you mean, accident?
Hunters from the city come through here regular, shoot at anything that moves. One of them might have done it unintentional, then got scared and run.
A city hunter with an old-fashioned squirrel rifle? That's what this bullet was fired from.
Well, I said it could have been accidental. I didn't say it was. I reckon somebody meant to kill her, all right. Only trouble, though, I can't figure anybody that might have had a reason to.
What about this slug? The ballistics boys make anything out of it?
Nope. Too flattened out. Sent it clear to Philadelphia. They said there wasn't any way of telling what particular rifle it came from. And pretty near everybody in the township's got one of them guns. No, it's like I said. No clues, not to speak of.
There are people, though, Jake, with different motives and different capabilities. And one of them did it.
Not the one you're figuring most on, though, Mr. Dollar.
Her husband, you mean, Ben Williams? Why not?
Ain't the type. Like you said about capabilities, he wouldn't kill anybody. You'll see when you meet him.
Well, then suppose we meet him.
All right. Farm is just outside of town. I'll drive you out there. But the township's kind of frugal with money, and I will have to ask you to pay for the car expense.
Fair enough. Maybe we could make a couple of other calls, too. I'd like to talk to the coroner.
You already have. I'm the coroner. Well, let's go.
Expense account item 2, $4.50. Car expense from Piney Corners to the Williams farm. Or at least part way to the Williams farm. After stopping several times to point out local landmarks, Constable Finley pulled up beside 2 people who were building a rock wall along the road and introduced me to Williams' neighbors, the Keelers.
How do you do, Mr. Dollar?
I'm pleased to meet you.
Mr. Dollar's an insurance investigator, Ira. He's checking into Martha's death. Oh, I see.
Tri-State Company.
Why, yes, that's right, Mrs. Keeler.
Oh, it was a terrible tragedy. Sad thing for all of us. The Williams have been neighbors for years. Good neighbors. And then this, after all the other trouble they'd had.
What sort of trouble, Mr. Keeler?
Oh, Martha's illness. After that operation last year, she was almost an invalid, you might say. Ben had to care for her, along with doing for the house and running the farm, too.
A lot of time he spent caring for her.
Now, Agnes...
Not half as much time as he spent hanging around that girl.
What girl is that, Mrs. Keeler?
Oh, that little flibberty
Now,
jibber.
Agnes. I'm afraid my wife is just repeating gossip she's heard, Mr. Dollar. Ben Williams is a fine young man.
Any stories to the contrary are idle rumors.
I know the girl, Mr. Dollar. It's Flora Lane, a waitress at the Piney Corners Inn. You can talk to her when we get back to town.
Good.
I reckon we better get on over to Ben.
Oh, by the way, Mrs. Keeler, the company appreciated your letter.
How'd you know it was me?
Oh, I just guessed. Nice to have met both of you. Goodbye.
It ain't much farther now. William's house is right ahead of us.
You figure this is how the killer got away, down this draw, huh?
Yep. As far as the road, back where we left the car. Couldn't have been seen from either the Keeler place or the Williams house. The brush is too thick.
Yeah, that all right.
Let's see now. Over about there is where I calculated the shot was fired, Broughton. Right next to that survey marker. Here, come on, I'll show you.
What was the survey for?
Well, they was figuring to build a turnpike through here last year. Finally picked someplace else a few months ago. Too bad. It'd have made this land worth something. Now, let's see. Martha Williams was sitting in that big front window there. Ben's put the glass back in since. It was long about dusk. Miss Keeler was in the room with her. She'd brought over a cake or something.
And somebody standing above where we are now fired at her through the window with a rifle and killed her.
And got away. Back down the draw there, I figure.
Tell me something, Jake. This waitress at the inn, Flora Lane, she pretty?
Well, tastes differ. She's pretty enough.
Was it just a rumor? Or was Ben seeing her before his wife was killed?
Oh, he stopped by the restaurant once in a while. Cup of coffee, piece of pie. He was doing all the cooking at home. He got mighty tired of it, I reckon.
And what about now? Is he still seeing her?
He eats most of his evening meals there, if that's what you mean.
How about his wife? Did she have any chance of getting well eventually?
Not according to the doctors. They said she'd be an invalid as long as she... You're barking up the wrong tree, Mr. Dollar.
It adds up, Jake. A pretty girl in the offing, young and alive, an invalid wife and a rundown farm. Now, he wouldn't be the first man who's gone wrong trying to get out from under a burden like that.
Yeah. Not Ben, no. It ain't his nature. Come on, let's go up and talk to him. You'll see when you meet him.
Why would Mrs. Keeler go out of her way to get him into trouble?
Send him that letter? Well, she's always been a good friend of Martha's, but she never has like Ben. I don't know why. That's just the way she is. I wouldn't put no stock in what she said.
I don't see much sign of life.
Well, Ben's in and out. You never know.
Sounds like somebody's coming around the house.
Guess he was working out in the barn.
You're looking for... Oh, the constable.
All right, Tom.
Fine, Mr. Finley.
Ben around?
Nope, he ain't here. I've been working out back, fixing a spreader. Mr. Williams ain't here, though.
Any idea when he'll be back?
Nope, he didn't say. You can go in and set, though, if you want.
Yeah, maybe we will. Oh, this is Mr. Dollar, Tom Smith.
Howdy.
Why?
Tom does odd jobs for Ben, some of the other farmers. Works around here and there.
I see. Were you working here the day Mrs. Williams was killed, Tom?
No, I wasn't even near here. Anybody that says so is lying. I was clear over on the other side of town.
Shall we go inside, Mr. Dollar?
Okay. I'll see you, Tom.
He gets kind of excited when he thinks he's accused of anything. He's not much on brains, you know.
Has he ever been in trouble with the law?
Well, petty stuff. Shooting game out of season, mostly.
Oh? Is he a good shot?
Dead shot. Never misses.
We waited in the parlor for a while. The room where Martha Williams had died. Gradually, the sun dropped behind the hills, and Ben still hadn't come back. We finally left and drove into town. I arranged to meet Jake, the constable, later at his office. Then I walked over to the Piney Corners Inn to eat dinner. There were half a dozen tables in the place, all empty. I was the only customer. The waitress was pretty and friendly and fitted the description.
Feels like it's turning out to be a cold night.
Yeah, it sure does.
We have some awful good pot roast this evening. I think you'll like it.
All right, fine.
You're a stranger in town, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm here looking into the death of Martha Williams.
I see.
Are you, by any chance, Flora Lane?
Yes. Yes, I am.
I guess you're the person I'm looking for.
You worked very fast. I thought it would take longer.
Oh?
I knew you'd find out, of course. Sooner or later. I was hoping Ben and I would at least have a little time to ourselves first.
Well, it looks like it didn't work out that way.
Never does. Once you've been knocked down, life never gives you another chance.
Did Martha have a chance?
I wouldn't have done anything to harm her marriage. Didn't let on to Ben how I felt. Not once. Not until after she'd been killed.
That's considerate of you.
And I know he didn't give me one thought as long as she was alive. Not in his nature.
So I've heard.
Doesn't it mean anything at all when a person's acquitted?
Acquitted? Acquitted of what?
Well, that other... I thought you knew. I thought that's what you...
Maybe you better tell me about it, Flora. I'll find out anyway. Now that I know what to look for.
Yes, you could, easy. 4 years ago in Chicago, I was working as housekeeper for a family. The wife died suddenly. They said I did it because I wanted to marry the husband. I was tried for murder.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He was third vice president to become president through the death of the man holding that office. A man of limited education, he was taught to read and to write by his wife. In 1862, when Tennessee threatened to secede from the Union, he was appointed military governor of occupied Tennessee by President Lincoln. As president, by a threat of war, he stopped Napoleon's attempt to seize control of Mexico. And his administration saw the beginning of the Reconstruction era. A senator before he became president, he was reelected to the Senate after his presidential term of office was over. If you don't have his name by now, here are two more clues. During his administration, Alaska was purchased from Russia, and Nebraska became a state. Who was he? Andrew Johnson, 17th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Expense account item 3, $1.60. Pot roast special at the Piney Corners Inn. I finished it, left, and walked down the empty street to the constable's office.
Well, pull up a chair, Mr. Dollar. This old oil burner don't throw much heat.
Oh, thanks, Jake.
You find Ben?
No. I met his girlfriend, though.
Flora? I reckon you found out about her, too, from that look on your face.
Yeah, she let the whole thing slip. Thought I was already onto it.
It don't have no bearing, Mr. Dollar.
No, maybe not. The way it stands, though, I could make out a pretty good case against Ben.
Except you haven't met him.
It adds up, Jake. An invalid wife, a pretty girl, a rundown farm that doesn't look as though it's made a profit in years, and a $10,000 insurance policy just dangling.
Yeah. In fact, it's even worse a picture if you look at it that way.
What do you mean?
That farm's not only run down, it's mortgaged to the hilt. Ben needed money for that first operation last year, and the others later. The bank wouldn't touch it.
Well, what happened?
Our Keeler came through and helped him out. $7,500. That farm wouldn't bring $4,500 if it was sold tomorrow. Naturally, Ben feels pretty obligated.
And $10,000 would take the pressure off all the way around. Huh. I've been wondering about something. You said that nearly everybody in the township had one of those old-fashioned squirrel rifles. What about Ben?
No, just a shotgun.
Yeah. I saw it when we were out there, hanging over the mantel. And I noticed something else at the same time. The hooks the gun was hanging on. They hadn't been put there for a shotgun. They were too far apart. But I think they'd fit a squirrel rifle just fine.
Ben's not one to lie, and he told me he didn't have a rifle. But that's something else I've been studying about, Mr. Dollar. I kind of half remember seeing a squirrel gun hanging over that mantel in years gone by.
Expense account item 4, $4.50. Car expense for another trip with the constable out to the Williams farm.
The lights are on.
Oh, evening, Jake.
And Ben? I'd like you to meet Mr. Dollar.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, turning sort of cold out, huh?
Yes, it is. Mind if we come inside, Ben?
Oh, sure. Sorry, Jake. Come on back to the kitchen. That's the only room I keep a fire in. Pull a couple of chairs out from the table there.
Thanks.
I'll see if I can shake this grate down a little. Get the draft started. You got some business out this way, Jake?
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, we're here to talk to you, Ben.
Oh?
Mr. Dollar here is an investigator for the insurance company that's got the policy on Martha. He aims to find out who killed her.
Oh, I see. You got any idea about it yet, Mr. Dollar?
Yes, an idea, but nothing more than that.
You mind telling me?
No, I don't see any reason not to put the cards on the table. The way things stack up right now, looks like maybe you killed her, Ben.
That's a lie. Well, I wouldn't harm a hair on her head.
I said looks like. Looks can be deceiving.
What do you mean?
Mr. Dollar's been checking here and there, Ben, talking to people, the Keelers and Flora Lane.
What's Flora got to do with it?
Nothing. Or she could be part of your reason.
Well, I didn't even make her acquaintance hardly before the last week or two.
What about Mrs. Keeler? She's a friend of yours, isn't she?
Well, she's a good friend of Martha's. Why do you ask?
She thinks you killed your wife. She wrote a letter to the insurance company.
Why, she's crazy. I always knew she never liked me, but I didn't figure she'd go that far.
Ben, whatever happened to that squirrel rifle you had around the house?
A week before Martha died, somebody... Well, how'd you know I had it?
What happened to it, Ben?
Jake, I didn't lie to you, actually. You asked me if I had a rifle, and I said no. And I didn't then. You didn't ask me if I had one.
Where's the rifle now, Ben?
Well, I don't know, Mr. Dollar. It was stole the week before Martha was killed, and I ain't seen it since.
You didn't say anything to me about it being stole. How come you didn't report it?
Because Martha asked me not to. She thought she knew who took it, and she wanted to give them a chance to make good. And she was like that, always giving people a chance.
But after she was gone, after she'd been shot by that same kind of rifle, you still didn't report it.
Because of how it would make things look. Reporting afterward that the gun had been took before. Don't you see?
Who had a chance to steal the rifle, Ben?
Well, I don't know. The only ones I can think of that was in the house that week are Mrs. Keeler and Tom Smith.
Tom Smith. Jake, is that the kid we met here this afternoon?
Yep. He's taken things before, Mr. Dollar, and he's crazy about guns.
Oh. Maybe we ought to check into it.
It's around here back to the feed store, Mr. Dollar. Kind of a shack on the corner of the lot. They let him use it in return for keeping an eye on the store at night. I think the door's here at the corner, if I recollect. It's been a long...
All right, now. You stop right where you are.
It's Constable Finley, Tom. Mr. Dollar's with me.
All right. I figured it was somebody trying to break in.
Well, now that you know it isn't, I wonder if I can have a look at that gun you're holding.
Well, I reckon so, Mr. Dollar. Sure, here.
Thanks. You got the flashlight, Jake?
Yeah. Just a second now. Here we are.
Well, no luck. It's a 22.
What you fellas up to, anyhow?
Tom, what did you do with Ben Williams' squirrel rifle?
How'd you find out?
Never mind. What did you do with it?
I ain't got it now.
Where is it?
I sold it. I did. I sold it to Mr. Keeler. He gave me $3 for it about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks. That'd make it a week after Martha Williams was shot. And you took the gun the week before she was shot. Well, Tom?
Well, what? I don't know what... Are you saying I shot Mrs. Williams?
I'm asking.
She was the best friend I ever had. The only one in this town. Ever treated me like somebody. I wouldn't do nothing to hurt her.
Now, Tom.
Besides, that gun ain't even been fired for 3 or 4 years, maybe. Miss Williams never did use it. Well, it's even got rust inside the barrel.
Tom, for your sake, I hope it has. Expense account item 5, another $4.50 for the loan of Jake Finley's car to drive out to the Keeler farm and pick up the stolen rifle. As I walked up to the porch, the door opened.
Oh.
Evening, Mrs. Keeler.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Dollar.
Is your husband at home?
Oh, yes. He's in there working on his accounts. Mr. Dollar, about that letter, it was a terrible thing to do.
Well, it's...
I don't really think Mr. Williams had anything to do with Martha's death. And I don't hate him either. In fact, not that Ira isn't steady and reliable, but, well, life on a farm isn't easy for a woman at the best. And she wants more than just cold, hard profits and grasping for more and more money. She gets silly notions.
Mrs. Keeler, I don't...
She wants warmth, that's all. Nothing more. And Ben wouldn't even pay any attention to me, Mr. Dollar. You understand.
Yes. I think I do.
You go right on in. I have to take these preserves over to Miss Daly. I don't know why I told you all that.
Good night, Mrs. Keeler. Mr. Keeler?
In here. Come on in.
Sorry to bother you this time of night.
Oh, Mr. Dollar. Just finishing up my last year's account book. What can I do for you?
Well, unless I've been misinformed, you bought a squirrel rifle from Tom Smith a while back.
Yeah, that's right. Hanging there over the fireplace. $3. Quite a bargain. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if he stole it somewhere.
He did. From your next-door neighbor, Ben Williams.
I'm out $3. And I'll take it over to Ben in the morning.
I wonder if I could look at the gun, Mr. Keeler. We're trying to check on Tom's story.
Of course. Go right ahead. I'll just finish this total while you're doing it, and we'll have time for a chat.
Fine. He went back to the ledgers on the table in front of him, and I reached up and took the rifle down from the hooks over the mantel. Tom Smith had told the truth. There was rust in the barrel and on the breech. The gun hadn't been cleaned nor fired. But I saw something else, too. The hooks over the fireplace. They were old and rusted and set firmly into the mortar. They'd been there for years.
Find out what you were after, Mr. Dollar?
More than I was after. I know who killed Martha Williams.
Tom Smith?
Murders are ordinarily committed because of hate or for gain. Now, hate didn't seem to fit in this case, but gain did. Who benefits? At first glance, Ben Williams, the beneficiary of the insurance policy.
Oh, I don't believe it.
No, neither did I, not completely. Didn't quite add up. Maybe it was too obvious. No, it wasn't Ben, Mr. Keeler. It was somebody who stood to benefit even more than he did from that $10,000 policy.
Who?
Somebody who made a $7,500 loan out of kindness. That in itself should have tipped me off, Mr. Keeler. As Jake says, it wasn't in your nature.
My nature?
And, of course, it wasn't kindness. It was good business at the time, because a turnpike was being planned that would make the farm worth twice that loan. But the road fell through, and you were stuck with a worthless farm, unless Ben could get money to pay you. I imagine that's when you started thinking about murder.
You're accusing me of murder, Mr. Dollar?
Those hooks over the mantel have been there a long time. Where's the rifle that hung there before you bought this one from Tom Smith?
There might not have been one.
The neighbors will remember.
Yes, let me just put down this final total. Yeah, there. I had a good year last year. Very good year. I doubt it's going to be that good this year. Well, no regrets, Mr. Dollar. It's like farming. You take risks on drought, frost, insects. Sometimes you lose. Make a mistake. I knew I'd made a mistake the second I pulled that trigger. It was just a matter of time. The gun's buried out behind the barn.
Expense account item 6, $57.20. Incidentals and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $120.70. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
Philip Martin, Johnny. What do you know about hydroelectric power dams?
Not a thing, should I?
The Travers Construction Company is building one at Sierra de Avare. That's a couple of 100 miles west of Caracas, Venezuela. Thought you might like to run down there and take a look at it.
Well, that's very thoughtful of you, but no thanks.
There's a time penalty clause in their contract, Johnny, and we put up the completion bond. Now, if the dam isn't finished by a week from Friday, it starts costing us $5,000 a day until it is.
You sound worried.
We got a radiogram from Asa Travers yesterday claiming that attempts are being made to prevent the completion of the dam on schedule. Last night, Travers got himself involved in a premature dynamite explosion.
Did it kill him?
No, that was accomplished by 2 .38 caliber slugs they found in him afterwards.
I wonder if coffee's any cheaper in Venezuela. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Sulphur and Brimstone matter. Expense account item 1, $273.50. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Caracas, Venezuela. I was met at the Macatilla airport by the deceased Travers' partner, Senor Getulio Matarsa, who wasted little time on the amenities. 10 minutes later, we were aboard a twin-engine Cessna with Matarsa at the controls, flying west toward the Sierra de Avare Dam.
As to who may have killed Senor Travers, or why, I can tell you nothing. It is possible Capitan Borros of the Federal Police will have more information for us when we arrive.
Why federal authorities on a homicide matter?
Oh, the Sierra de Avare Dam is being partially financed by governmental funds. Naturally, the federal authorities are interested.
Now, what's your opinion about Asa Travers' report that somebody's trying to sabotage the dam?
While it is true we have had some breakdown of equipment, some vital materials lost or stolen, I do not believe anyone is attempting to delay construction by physical means.
What do you believe?
In many police organizations, Senor Dollar, even in yours, in the United States, there will always be a small percentage of dishonest men.
You talking about Captain Borrow?
On a project such as the Sierra de Avare Dam, too diligent police investigations could cause disastrous work stoppages. Vital delays which could carry us far beyond the contract deadline.
And at $5,000 a day, that could turn out to be pretty rough. Did either you or Travers try to prove this little theory of yours?
We will be near the dam shortly, Senor Dollar, and your investigation can begin. It would not perhaps be wise of me to attempt to give you any preconceived ideas.
Maybe you should have thought of that before you tried so hard. Some 20 minutes later, Matarsa put the plane down on a bare earth field in the midst of a jumble of giant steam shovels, earth movers, and bulldozers. Overlooking it all was the great bulk of the Sierra de Avari Dam. Matarsa made some excuse about having to check on a turbine installation, so I made my way alone to the shack which was construction headquarters of the project. Sorry.
Excúseme, señor.
My fault.
No hay de qué. Hasta luego, señor.
Yeah.
Yeah?
My name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator. I'm looking for Captain Boros.
Insurance investigator. That's all we need out here now. Who's paying you off, Boris or Matarsa?
Maybe we better start over again. My name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator. Who are you?
Bill Anthony. I'm straw boss of this outfit. And let's get one thing straight right now. I'm here to build this dam, and it's going to get built in spite of you or Boris or Matarsa or anyone else.
Very admirable. Now, where's Captain Boros?
Last I heard, he was going over to Travers' house.
And where's that?
Near the town of Puerto Cáceres, some 10 miles north of here.
Uh-huh.
We got some jeeps parked down on the other side of the hill. Told one of the boys I said he should drive you out there.
You're mighty accommodating all of a sudden.
We'll get you out of my hair for a while.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Oh, by the way, who's the girl I bumped into on my way in?
Philomena Travers.
Aza's daughter?
His widow. Why?
You must have been discussing some pretty important business.
What makes you think so?
Neither one of you remembered to wipe the lipstick off your chin. There were a few questions I wanted to put to Matarsa regarding Bill Anthony and Asa Travers' comely young widow, Philomena, but I didn't see him around. So I made my way to the motor pool and got myself transportation and a guide to take me to Asa Travers' home.
It is true, then, that the Senor Norteamericano has come here on the sad matter of Senor Travers' death?
Well, the word's gotten around pretty fast, hasn't it, Pedro?
Well, when one has lived in the Sierra Roja as long as has Pedro de la Cuesta, anything strange or different becomes quickly known.
Well, then maybe Pedro de la Cuesta knows something about why Senor Travers was killed.
I know only that when men make an evil thing, senor, it will bring evil.
You're talking about the building of the dam?
Si, senor.
Why should that be an evil thing?
It is not right for men to change the things which are natural to the earth, senor. To force the flowing waters of a river backward upon themselves. This is not a good thing, senor.
You talk like a plantation owner, Pedro.
No, senor. My father was but a poor farmer who worked hard that I might go to the school of the workers here. But Pedro knows it is not a good thing what is being done here today. The evil that man creates will destroy him as it has already done to Senor Travers. And there will be more it will destroy, senor. Many, many more.
Now, that's a happy thought. Asa Travers' house was a neat white stucco bungalow, half hidden by a mass of flowering bougainvillea. I left Pedro de la Cuesta with his gloomy thoughts while I went up to see if anyone was around. It soon became evident that somebody was. The shots came from a low barn-like building at the rear of the property, and I wasted no time getting over there to see if Pedro's prophecy had already been fulfilled.
Buenas tardes, senor. So we meet again, huh?
Yeah.
But you look so startled, senor. Almost as though you had expected to find a body in here.
Well, I hadn't expected to find a shooting gallery, Senora Travers.
Asa had it built for my amusement. I have always found firearms fascinating ever since I was a little girl. And there is little else with which one may amuse oneself out here in this wilderness. I have become quite proficient at it. You see?
Not bad. What's the gun? .38 caliber on a .45 frame?
Si, senor. And you are thinking perhaps that it is the same caliber bullet which caused the death of Asa?
The thought had occurred to me, yeah.
Well, it is regrettable one must disappoint you, senor. Capitan Boros has already shed the gun.
Mm-hmm. I see. Where is the good captain?
Oh, he left perhaps 20 minutes ago.
We didn't pass him on the road.
Are you always so suspicious of other persons' statements, Senor Dollar?
Let's say I'm curious.
And you find something to be curious about concerning me?
Oh, a number of things.
Oh?
Well, I haven't told you who I am or why I'm here, but you seem to know.
But of course, senor. Bill Anthony has called me on the telephone and so informed me.
And you don't seem particularly grief-stricken over the death of your husband.
I have a philosophy of life, senor. It is always to look forward, never back. It is only the future one may possibly control, never the past.
Sometimes the past has a nasty habit of affecting one's future.
Only if one has been guilty of some crime.
And you haven't?
Would you believe me if I said no?
Senor Dollar. Senor Dollar.
In here, Matassa.
Senor. Senor, you must return with me to the dam at once.
Why? What's up?
It is that Capitan Boros. He has just ordered an immediate stoppage of all work on the dam. You see, Senor Dollar, already the work has come to a halt. Nothing is moving. The steam shovels, the concrete mixers, nothing.
Uh-huh. Where's Captain Boris?
In a construction shack with Bill Anthony.
Let's talk with him.
I tell you, Senor Dollar, there is only one answer for this action. Capitan Boros is looking for the payout.
We'll talk to him.
I'm about ready to shoot. Well, it's about time you got here, Dollar. Maybe you can talk some sense into this bull-headed jackass who calls himself captain of police.
I have listened to enough of this kind of talk, Senor Anthony. I'm willing to talk sensibly and calmly with anyone. But violent words or actions will not sway me in the least.
Well, that makes sense, Captain. Can you do the same about this sudden clampdown order of yours?
Quite simply, Senor, I had no alternative. It was necessary to halt work upon the dam in order to prevent possible irreparable damage to the construction.
What kind of nonsense is that, Capitan?
It is a statement of fact, Senor Metarsa. I discovered this afternoon that Senor Anthony was about to dynamite a passageway for the new riverbed. He was employing an excessive amount of dynamite that would bring the hillside down upon the cut that has already been made.
You're lying in your teeth, Boris.
I am no engineer, Senor Anthony. But when the specifications call for 25 cases of dynamite, and I find 50 such cases are being employed, drastic action of some kind is certainly called for.
How about that, Anthony?
He's off his rocker, Dollar. I issued the specifications for the job. 25 cases were called for. And only 25 cases were taken out of the powder house.
Seems to be a little difference of opinion, Captain. Suppose we go down and take a look at those dynamite charges.
If you wish, Senor. But I can assure you, you will be able to learn nothing that will alter my decision until I get to the bottom.
Dynamite! The charges we set to blast the new riverbed. Somebody set them off.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Our subsequent investigation showed that Bill Anthony's specifications for 25 cases of dynamite had cleared through the powder house just that way. And the explosive experts there said that only an amount greatly in excess of that could have caused the damage that had been done. And we discovered that the blast had been touched off by a crude homemade sparking contraption we found in the brush on one of the nearby hills. It was dark by the time we got back to the construction shack. Matarsa was waiting for us with a report on the results of the investigating he and Bill Anthony had done.
The original damage is not as great as we feared, senores.
Yeah? How's that, Matarsa?
While it is true the explosion buried the new cart, it is only for a relatively short distance. We can bypass it through a natural canyon on the other side of the hill. The work will be completed by Friday.
You are forgetting something, are you not, senor?
Your work stoppage orders, Capitan Borros?
Mm-hmm.
No. I am flying to Caracas tonight. There are higher authorities there who can quite easily countermand your orders. I'm certain they will prevent you from interfering any longer in the construction of the Sierra de Abarre Dam. Buenas noches, senores.
Looks like he's calling your hand, Captain.
See. And I have no doubt he will succeed, senor. There are those in Caracas who, for a handful of silver, will sell practically anything, including their souls.
You know, Matarsa has the same idea about you.
He's not the first, nor will he be the last. A police official is always suspect. There are but few who realize that there are other considerations besides those of money.
How about naming me one, Captain?
8 men have died so far in the construction of this dam, senor. All of them during the so-called accidents which have occurred. What if I should tell you that my reason for holding construction until we get to the bottom of this consists solely of a desire to save more lives?
Well, I'd say it sounds reasonable. On a construction project like the Sierra de Avari Dam, there's not much to do at night except eat and sleep. In the mess hall, I was served up a beautiful thing called cazuela. I was seriously considering presenting my compliments to the chef when I was called to the phone in Bill Anthony's office.
I trust I did not interrupt anything too important, Senor Dollar, but I am about to leave this dreary wilderness for the much more pleasant surroundings to be found in Caracas.
Getting tired of target practice?
Oh, I'm tired of many things, Senor. Tired and bored. So perhaps when you're finished with your business there, you would care to look me up in Caracas. I will be at the Gran Palacio.
That's not what you called me about.
Not everything, perhaps.
What's the rest of it?
Well, after you left, I happened to recall what my dear husband Asa once said to me concerning the dam and the accidents which had been occurring there.
What was it?
He said, strange how the works of the devil always carry the odor of sulphur and brimstone with them.
What else did he say?
Well, it is all, Senor.
Pretty cryptic, isn't it?
It means nothing to you?
Should it?
Would it help any if I were to tell you that very close to where the dynamite explosion occurred this afternoon, there's an old abandoned sulphur mine?
It might. What do you know about an old sulphur mine somewhere around here, Pedro?
I know that there is one, senor, but it has not been worked. There has been no one near it for many years. It could be of no importance to anyone.
Suppose we find out.
There is evil in here, senor. Much evil. What is it the senor hopes to discover here?
I'm not sure, Pedro.
Senor?
Up ahead there. What's your guess?
Those wooden boxes? How would I know?
You've been working on a construction job, Pedro. Take a closer look.
It is the explosive, senor. The boxes of dynamite.
Yeah. Some empty, some full. Well, that answers one question.
What question, senor?
Where the excess dynamite came from that blew up half that mountain today. And take a look behind those stacked cases.
Ay, Santa Maria.
Yeah. Looks like we got more answers than we bargained for. When we got back to the camp, I rounded up Captain Boros. He agreed with me heartily in all respects.
Si, Senor Dollar. I would say your little trip to the sulphur mine has supplied us with several answers. Finding the dynamite, the body of Senor Bill Anthony.
Let's not forget the gun, Captain.
38 caliber. The same caliber that killed Senor Travers. The initials on the butt are GM. And when you consider that the sulphur mine is owned by Senor Getulio Metarsa...
Yeah. How soon are you leaving for Caracas?
Immediately. Perhaps you would like to return with me.
That's the second best offer I've had in Venezuela.
Oh? And the first, Senor?
Well, I should find the answer to that at the Gran Palacio. An hour and a half later, I checked into the Gran Palacio. Valet service did a fairly good job of removing the clinging yellow sulfur dust from my clothes, while a hot shower did the same for my skin. But nothing could help the chemical reaction of the sulfur dust that had tarnished the silver coins in my pocket until they were almost black. When I asked for Senora Travers, I was told she would be at the Hippodromo Nacional. Expense account item 2, $3.50. Cab fare from the Gran Palacio to Caracas' sumptuous Hippodromo Nacional. Good evening, Senora.
Senor Dollar.
Surprise?
In a way. I was not expecting to see you here tonight. Do you always accept invitations so hurriedly?
Well, only under unusual circumstances.
Do you find this one unusual?
Well, let's say the widow's lack of grief over her husband's passing was rather marked.
You're not being very amusing.
Neither was your explanation about that sulphur mine. It's leading Captain Boros to Getulio Metarsa just about now.
Getulio? He's the one who... Oh, that is too bad.
Why?
He had promised to take care of my expenses during my stay here in Caracas.
Well, you'd better start looking for another philanthropist.
I do not suppose...
I don't think I could afford it.
Oh, how unfortunate. Well, in that case, I would not consider asking you to pay for my drink.
I'm still not too happy about that sulphur mine explanation.
There is nothing more I can tell you, senor.
Not even where you got that coin?
Coin?
The one you just threw on the bar. Tarnished. Almost black. In case you didn't know, that's what sulfur does to silver.
I see.
Well?
It was given to me day before yesterday, senor. It was the wish of the giver that I purchase a candle with it to burn for my husband.
Who gave it to you?
Pedro de la Cuesta.
It didn't take long to find Captain Boros or to make the return flight to Sierra de Ovalle. Locating Pedro de la Cuesta was another matter. When we finally made it, dawn was already hitting the hills. Unfortunately, it looked like we were a little too late.
Senor Dollar.
Yeah, I see him.
That box he has with him. Another sparking mechanism. The dynamite must be buried in the hill beside him.
Isn't the river on the other side?
It is. If he explodes that dynamite, the river will break into a new channel and sweep down upon the dam.
Hold it, Boris.
There is no other way, senor. Only a bullet can stop him now. He can explode the charge at any time before we reach him.
Let me take a crack at it. It's no good, Pedro. What you're doing is no good.
It will destroy the evil, senor. It will prevent the good earth from being drowned by the wicked water.
For a while, maybe, but only for a while. No matter what you do here today, that dam will be built.
No, senor. It will be taken as an omen, as a sign from heaven. The evil thing will be left alone to drown in its own water, as they wish to drown my Maria.
You're Maria, Pedro? Who is she?
Mi esposa, senor. My wife. She who came with me to this land almost 40 years ago. Maria, who worked with me in the soil, who bore our children, who gave of herself for me, our family, for our land. Our grave lies there beyond those hills, senor, where the evil ones will release the waters.
Is that why you want to destroy the dam, Pedro? Because of Maria's grave?
She belongs there, senor, in the good earth to which she gave so much of herself. And they wish to destroy her grave, senor. To drown it in those filthy waters so they can make money. To wash away the only thing that ever meant anything in my life. How could I allow that, senor? How?
Is that why you killed Senor Travers?
He would not listen. On my knees I begged him, but he would not listen. An evil man, senor.
And Senor Anthony?
He suspects me. Follow me to the Sulphur mine. I had no choice, senor. And you have given me none now.
Put the box down, Pedro.
No, senor. It is unfortunate you must die with me.
Put it down.
It is too late, senor. Perhaps somewhere we will meet again.
Senor Dollar, you're all right?
Yeah. Thanks, Boris. How come you missed him?
It was necessary that I miss. What if I'd hit the box and it caused contact? A most unhappy thought.
So was the one I had.
What was that, Senor Dollar?
The same thing could have happened just now when it hit the ground. Expense account item 3, $41.60. Hotel bill and incidentals in Caracas. Expense account item 4, $267. Airfare and incidentals from Caracas back to Hartford. Expense account total, $585.60. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Bill Randall, Johnny. And are you ever a lucky stiff?
Well, coming from you, I have my doubts.
How can you say that, man? Getting away from all this rain and cold, basking amidst the sweet-scented blooms of Magnolia and Honeysuckle?
Uh-huh. Where is this springtime paradise?
Charleston, South Carolina.
And what caught fire down there?
The Ambrose Cooper Paper Company, Johnny. Burned halfway down to the ground last night. Second fire there in 2 years. Cost one of their secretaries their life and could cost us around $100,000.
Well, you can afford it, even if she couldn't.
Not if it's arson, we can't.
Well, maybe the mint juleps are in bloom down there, too.
Now for just a few words on the subject of getting things done. Within the past few years, a new plan of activity has sprung up in America, the do-it-yourself plan. Whether you want to build a better mousetrap, a house, a rocket ship, plant a garden, or have some new clothes, you can buy the plans or patterns and do it yourself, which is a good idea. But there are still many things which can be done better with advice and help from the experts. For example, if you want to know the best way to plow the land, irrigate fields, or terrace your sloping acreage, there are experts who are always at your service. The engineers who are employed by the Department of Agriculture. They are also the ones to ask for advice in constructing the buildings and potato cellars and seed beds on your farm. If you need electrical power on your farm, the department's electrical engineers will give you the help you need. Perhaps you may want to know the best way to can vegetables, what special shoe to buy, or how to plan the right kind of meals. If you do, the Bureau of Home Economics issues booklets on almost everything that goes into a home. If you want to set up a practical bookkeeping or accounting system to help budget and control your farm expenditure, the Department of Agriculture will help you work out the system which is best for you. It will also give farmers advice on financial matters, even help with cash loans, and help the farmer establish prices for his products which are fair to both him and the buyer. All in all, the Department of Agriculture is a right neighborly organization to deal with, and an important part of your United States government.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Fire and Casualty Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Magnolia and Honeysuckle matter. Expense account item 1, $53.40. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Charleston, where I checked into the Colonial Hotel. Expense account item 2, $50 rental of a cream-colored convertible, which I drove down to police headquarters. Lieutenant Hervey of their arson division was working at the scene of the fire, so I went over to see how he was making out.
Only been a couple of hours since it cooled down enough to dig into Dollar, but you sure didn't make the trip down here for nothing.
You figure it was torched?
No question about it. Come on over here.
Yeah, sure.
This is where the offices was. The plant itself was back over there. Damage isn't too bad back there, but you sure got hotted up in a hurry out front here.
Mm-hmm. Looks like this was a private office of some kind.
It was. Norman Cooper.
The insurance policy shows a Mrs. Alice Cooper is sole owner of the outfit.
That's right. Norman's her son. Oh. There's another Cooper who works for the outfit, too. Robert. Younger brother of old Ambrose Cooper, who died about a year ago.
In that other fire?
Yeah. But here's what I want to show you. Take a look at that floor.
Uh-huh. Deep charring, flaring out from the center.
Yeah. Probably some highly inflammable liquid, kerosene, gasoline, something like that. Amateur job, too. No professional bug would leave a trail that plainly marked.
Who turned in the alarm?
Night watchman. He was at the far end of the plant making his rounds when it broke out. By the time he got here, there wasn't anything for him to do but pull the bar. It was clocked in at 4:17 a.m.
Where's he now?
Over at General Hospital, getting some burns doctored up. He got him trying to pull the girl out.
What about that girl?
Name's Felicia Farrell. Norman Cooper's secretary. She was lying on the floor right over there.
The fire killer?
They're posting her now. Coroner should let us know in a couple of hours.
Well, it doesn't make much sense, does it, Lieutenant?
Not so far. An amateur torch job. The Farrell girl being down here at 4 in the morning, Norman Cooper might be able to clear it up for us, though.
Yeah? How's that?
He took the Farrell girl out last night.
Well, what's he got to say about it?
We don't know. Haven't been able to find him since.
There was nothing more I could do at the scene of the fire, so I went to pay my respects to our policyholder, Mrs. Alice Cooper, whom I found silver-haired and gracious, serving tea in her mansion on Laguerre Street. She fitted perfectly into a picture of the Old South. Her brother-in-law, Robert Cooper, was also present. He struck a more discordant note.
It was so nice of you, Mr. Dollar, to find time from your pressing duties to come calling on us.
Actually, I should think that the interests of Mr. Dollar's insurance company would be more properly served in some other way.
Just what did you have in mind, Mr. Cooper?
From what Lieutenant Hervey tells us, there's definite suspicion that the fire was deliberately set. Your time might better be spent among the criminal elements of Charleston rather than here.
No, really, Robert. I'm sure that Mr. Dollar is a more qualified judge than either of us as to what procedures he must follow. Some tea, Mr. Dollar?
No, thanks, Mrs. Cooper.
Robert?
If you please, Alice.
I presume one of the first things you'd like to know, Mr. Dollar, is the present whereabouts of my son, Norman.
Do you know where he is, Mrs. Cooper?
He's away on a hunting trip, Mr. Dollar. He left last night, around midnight. Norman loves to go hunting. It's his favorite sport, you know. He'll be back in a few days to answer any questions you might have.
Uh-huh. Isn't midnight a rather unusual hour to leave on a hunting trip?
Now, look here, Dollar. I strongly resent the implications in this line of questioning you're pursuing.
I imagine Felicia Farrell strongly resents the fact that she's dead, too.
Norman had nothing to do with that. Or with the fire.
Of course he didn't, Robert. But Mr. Dollar's certainly entitled to the information he desires. Mr. Dollar, midnight's the time Norman prefers to leave on his trips. That way he arrives at the hunting preserve at dawn. He always says it's the best time for shooting.
Mm-hmm. I understand he had a date with Felicia Farrell last night, Mrs. Cooper.
Yes, that's right. It took her to a company dance at the country club. It was over at 11. He brought her back home and then left on the trip.
Just how friendly were your son and Felicia Farrell?
Why?
I'll answer that, Alice. And I'll put it bluntly, Mr. Dollar. Felicia Farrell was extremely attractive, but hardly the kind of girl Norman would consider marrying. And as far as I know, there's still no law against the sowing of a few wild oats.
There is if the harvest turns out to be murder.
Oh.
Alice.
I'm sorry. That was terribly clumsy of me. Are there any more questions, Mr. Dollar?
Not now, Mrs. Cooper. And thanks. Back at the paper factory, I learned that Lieutenant Hervey had returned to police headquarters. So I went to a lunchroom across the street to call into him. Expense account item 3, 55 cents. Phone call, hamburger, rare, and a cup of coffee.
Hey, mister, one hamburger rare with the works. I figure it's done the way you wanted it.
Oh, it looks fine.
And that was coffee you said you wanted with it, isn't
That's
it?
right.
Yeah, there's sugar and cream.
No, black.
I see. Sure thing. See, that sure was a mighty big fire they had across the street last night.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah, kind of run into bad luck with fires, the Ambrose Cooper folks. The second one in 2 years they had.
Uh-huh.
My, it was real pretty, though it was. Though. Much prettier than the first one. Old man Cooper himself got burned to death in that one, you know.
You saw the fire last night?
Oh, yes. It was real pretty. The place sure looks like a mess now, though.
How did you happen to be around at 4 in the morning?
Well, the night man was sick, and the boss made me take his turn. Oh, he's always doing that, the boss. He kind of makes the fellow mad, too, having to take another fellow's turn like that.
Yeah. Did you see anybody around the place last night?
Well, no, there wasn't nobody around that I seen. Of course, there's nobody but old Horace, that is.
Horace?
The old Horace Singleton. And the night watchman over there. Oh, it's no wonder they're always getting fires with old Horace around.
Yeah, why is that?
You wouldn't ever need to ask that question, mister. If you'd seen him the way he was in here last night.
He came into the restaurant last night?
Oh, yes, he always does. He gets to nipping at that bottle of his, and then somewhere around 3 or 4 in the morning, he begins to feel like having a little bit of company.
So he'd been nipping last night, too.
Nipping? Man, he was drunk on 40 hoot owls. Oh, he was real happy. Real happy, old Horace was. Said he was kind of celebrating his retirement.
What time was that?
Well, let me see. That was maybe 10, 15 minutes before the fire broke out. But I never figured old Horace would be rich enough to retire, though. I always thought every extra cent he made went for booze.
How come you didn't tell the police all this?
Well, I don't know. Well, I never thought about that again. You think maybe I ought to tell them something about that? They ought to know something about that, huh?
Well, they might be interested. I relayed the information to Lieutenant Hervey at headquarters, and he checked with General Hospital. The watchman, Horace Singleton, had been treated for superficial burns and discharged an hour before. We started out in Hervey's car to see if we could pick him up for questioning at his home.
It might make some sense, Dollar. We figured Singleton might be suspect in that other fire when Ambrose Cooper died. Never could dig up any proof against him, though. Can't figure out this crack about his retirement. The old coot dead broke, so far as we know. This is his street here. Charleston's not very proud of this neighborhood with all these shanties and shacks.
That shack in the middle of the next block. Is that where he lives?
That's the place, the one with... Dollar?
Yeah, looks like we're just in time to pull the box on a third fire. By the time we got there and broke down the locked front door, the fire was really getting underway. Right in the middle of it was a rickety iron cot, and in the middle of the cot was the body of Horace Singleton. An empty whiskey bottle was still clasped firmly in his hand.
Get that over there, quick.
We managed to get him outside just as the first pumper rolled up in answer to some neighbor's call.
Now, here, dear Dollar. I didn't think we were going to make it.
Well, we could have saved ourselves the trouble.
Yeah. Not going to answer any questions for us now.
Well, he answered one.
How's that?
Whatever else he might have done, he didn't set that third fire. Not even the worst corn liquor smells like raw gasoline. We waited around just long enough for the coroner's man to come out and pick up Horace Singleton's body, and then went back to headquarters.
Looks like we're in kind of a rut, Dollar. 3 fires, 3 bodies. And we're getting nowhere fast.
Well, at least we've got a pretty classic arson pattern.
Yeah, the use of fire to destroy the evidence of another crime. This ties in, too. The coroner's report on Felicia Farrell.
Lung tissue not seared or burned. Definite evidence of oxygen starvation. Probable cause of death, asphyxiation prior to exposure to fire.
And I'll give you 8 to 5 right now. We got the same type report on Horace Singleton.
So we've got a pattern.
I know. Still doesn't tell us who or why. And sure like to... Excuse me. Lieutenant, hurry. Yeah? Where? Uh-huh. Did you search the car? Yeah, I got it. Bring them down here to headquarters. I'll be waiting. Thanks. That might help clear up a few points, Don. Young Norman Cooper was just picked up by the Highway Patrol for speeding.
Did they happen to find some hunting equipment in his car?
Yeah. Some other things, too.
Like what?
Felicia Farrell's handbag and a couple of empty gasoline cans.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He has been called a lawyer by profession, a fighter by choice, and a politician by force of circumstance. And he was outstanding in all 3 fields. In 1788, at the age of 21, he was appointed public prosecutor for the region which is now Tennessee. As president, he was the first to introduce the National Convention for the nomination of presidential candidates. During his campaign for the presidency, his opponents attempted to smear him by an unwarranted attack on his wife, Rachel, who never recovered from the ordeal and died just before her husband's inauguration. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more clue. During the Battle of New Orleans, as Major General of the Army, he accepted the help of the pirate Jean Lafitte. Who was he? Andrew Jackson, 7th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
It took about 45 minutes for the Highway Patrol to bring Norman Cooper down to headquarters. When we sat down with him in Lieutenant Hervey's office to talk things over, he didn't seem too upset at the prospect.
I caught the news on the radio up in Marlboro County, turned right around and head back home. That's why I was speeding.
You sure that's all you know about it, Mr. Cooper?
Of course it is, Lieutenant. How could I know anything else?
You had a date with the Felicia Farrell last night. What time did you bring her home?
Why, somewhere around 11:30, 11:45. Must have been around there. I was ready to shove off for my trip at midnight.
Anybody see you bring her home?
Why, no, not that I know of. I just dropped her off at her apartment and drove on home. No, I don't think any... Say, what is this? Are you trying to accuse me of having something to do with that fire and Felicia Farrell dying?
We're just trying to get some information, Mr. Cooper.
Well, I don't like the way you're going about it, Lieutenant, holding me down here, questioning me this way. I think I've got an explanation coming.
Maybe you'd better explain how come Felicia's handbag was found in your car.
She left it there. Forgot it when she got out.
Did she forget those empty gasoline cans, too?
Gasoline cans? What do they got to do with this?
Mind telling us what they were doing in your car, Mr. Cooper?
No, I always carry extra gas along with me in case I run out on the road. That's what happened this time. Look, you're just trying to build up a great big thing out of nothing. Why should I want to kill Felicia? Well, I hardly knew the girl.
She worked as your secretary. You took her out dancing last night.
Sure I did, to a company dance. It was the only date we ever had. The only reason I took her was the girl I usually go with stood me up.
Who's that, Miss Cooper?
Well, her name's Marianne James. Lives at 611 Crescent Drive. She's the girl I've been going with. She can back up what I'm telling you.
We'll check with her.
How come you thought I was Felicia's boyfriend anyhow? Didn't the fellow who was really taking her out square you away on that?
Who are you talking about, Cooper?
Well, the man my mother's going to marry. My uncle, Robert Cooper.
While Norman Cooper was giving his statement to the police stenographer, Hervey made a few calls around town trying to locate Robert Cooper. He came up with nothing, so I drove to Marianne James' address. Nobody was home at 611 Crescent Drive, but a gossipy neighbor informed me that Marianne James worked as a hostess and guide at the Botanical Gardens, 15 miles north of town on U.S. Highway 52. Expense account item 4, $1.50, entrance fee to the gardens. According to the modest sign out front, I was entering 250 acres of the most lush and beautiful flora to be found in South Carolina. Marianne was one of 10 Southern belles whose job it was to paddle enraptured tourists around artificial canals in flat-bottom boats, while intoning the glories of nature to be found there. I waited until her boat was free, then stepped aboard and we pushed off.
You'll notice over there on the left bank, sir, the border of azaleas for which the botanical gardens are justifiably famous. There are over 47 different varieties of these lovely, delicate blooms, ranging all the way from the purest of virginal white to the deepest shade of passionate red.
Okay.
Now, straight...
Okay, Marianne. You can relax now.
I beg your pardon, sir.
We're out of sight of the dock. Suppose we talk about something more interesting for a change.
The rules of the garden, sir, forbid us girls to enter into any personal conversation with the visitors here.
Must get pretty boring.
Oh, you don't know the half of it. I get so sick of azaleas and magnolias and honeysuckle at times I could just... Say, now, wait a minute. You're not one of those company spies, are you?
No, not this time. My name is Johnny Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
I can't say I rightly know what that means, Mr. Dollar.
Well, boiled down, it means I'd like to ask you a few questions about Felicia Farrow.
Felicia Farrow? And I don't think I rightly know anyone named. Oh. Now, you're not talking about that poor girl who got herself burned to death in that fire last night.
Yeah, that's the one.
I read about that in the papers this morning. That poor, dear thing. What a perfectly nasty way to die. But I'm afraid all I know about her is what I read in the papers, Mr. Dollar.
That's not what Norman Cooper says.
Norman? Did he say I knew anything about Felicia Farrow?
That was my general impression, yes.
He's just a darling old thing, Norman is, but he sometimes gets the craziest ideas. A poor girl like me working out here hardly gets a chance to meet anyone.
Oh, is that so?
I should say it is. After all, a girl needs clothes to go out and meet people, you know. And you can't possibly imagine what perfectly miserable salaries they pay us here.
Yeah, I think I can. Well, what do you know? Looks like somebody dropped some money in the boat.
Now, did one of those careless visitors here do that? I swear, some people would lose their heads if they weren't fastened on.
Yeah.
If you'll give me that bill, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, sure. Here.
Now, what were we talking about?
Felicia Farrow.
Oh, yes. The poor dear girl. Of course I knew her. What was I thinking of to say I didn't?
You know where she was last night?
I ought to.
Oh? Why is that?
I had a date to go to the company dance with Norman, but at the last minute I got a silly old headache. I didn't want to spoil Norman's fun, so I asked Felicia to go with him instead.
Has she ever gone out with him before?
With Norman? Well, hardly. He's been escorting me around for the past year or so.
Who did she go out with?
Felicia? Oh, no one in particular.
Well, what about Robert Cooper, Norman's uncle?
I heard Felicia talk about him once or twice, but that's all. I know for certain she never went out with him.
Well, Norman said she'd been going out regularly with his uncle.
He did?
That's right.
You know, that's very embarrassing, Mr. Dollar.
Oh? Why?
Well, Norman's such a darling old thing. I sure hate to get him into any trouble. But it stands to reason that one of us is lying. And I sure know it isn't me.
After floating around the gardens for 30 minutes more without Mary Ann changing her story, I headed back to town in the Colonial Hotel. There was a message from Lieutenant Hervey asking me to call him at headquarters the minute I got in.
Been checking the bank accounts of the people involved, Dollar, and it looks like it's paying off.
Well, it's about time something did.
Felicia Farrah made a cash deposit of $500 over and above her salary checks each and every month for the past 2 years.
What about Norman's account and Mrs. Cooper's?
Nothing there. But Robert Cooper's account shows a correspondent cash withdrawal of $500 2 to 4 days before each of Felicia's deposits.
Have you picked them up yet?
No, but we will. And it's not too tough to figure now.
Well, a blackmail motive might be a little hard to prove without knowing what Felicia had on him.
Felicia Farrah has a safety deposit box in the same bank.
Can you get a court order to open it?
We're getting one now. Care to join us?
I don't mind if I do. We found that the safety deposit box was held jointly by Felicia and Mary Ann James. The vault records showed that Mary Ann had been in to open the box earlier that same day. And the box contained a marriage license, issued a year before to Felicia Farrah and Robert Cooper.
You can't ask for a better blackmail motive, Doc. Robert wanted to marry Mrs. Alice Cooper while he's already secretly married to Felicia. She really had him over a barrel. No wonder he killed her.
Yeah. The death of the watchman makes sense now, too.
Sure, he must have stumbled into it while Robert was killing her and figured he could do a little blackmailing, too.
Well, it looks like 2 down and 1 to go.
What?
Somebody else could have the same idea.
Mary Ann James?
The license isn't proof of marriage, but a certificate would be. And she was into this box for something today.
If she figures on trying the same thing, Dollar, and Robert Cooper follows the same pattern.
That's just what I was thinking. A phone call to the Botanical Gardens brought no answer. It was after 5:30, and the place was obviously closed. There was only one place left to go. 611 Crescent Drive.
Oh, hello, Lieutenant. Mr. Dollar.
What are you doing here, Norman?
Well, I'm waiting for Mary Ann to get home. You see,
You mind if we come in?
Why, no, not at all.
Thanks.
Miss James hasn't come home yet?
No. I've been expecting her. She's usually home about this time. We had a date, but she phoned and said she'd be a little late.
Did she say why?
Yeah, she said she had to meet someone at the gardens after closing time. Some kind of a business deal or something. Why, did you want to see her about something important?
You could call it that. We covered the 15 miles out to the Botanical Gardens in something like 11 minutes flat. The place was dark and deserted looking except for 2 cars in the parking lot. The hood of one of the cars was still warm, and it was registered to Robert Cooper.
He's in there with her, Dollar. No question about it. Where?
I don't know, but with 250 acres to cover, we better get started. We split up and headed into a night-blackened mass of tropical foliage. There didn't seem to be a prayer of finding anyone in there, but I figured that 47 different varieties of azaleas was as good a place to start as any. But it didn't look as if I was right.
Cooper! Cooper! Where is it, Dollar? Can you see him?
In that clump of magnolias.
Get away from here! Get out! Dollar!
I don't know. Cooper! Throw your gun out, Cooper.
All right. All right. Here's the gun. All right.
Yeah.
I threw my gun down, Dollar. I threw it down.
I see it.
What about the girl, Dollar?
It seems all right. Passed out with shock.
She shouldn't have tried it. Blackmailing me. Refusing to let me go. Wasn't my fault. Nothing else I could do. There's no crime worse than blackmail.
Felicia Farrah could think of one. Expense account item 5, $18.30. Hotel bill and miscellaneous. Expense account item 6, $52.70. Airfare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $176.45. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mitchell, Dollar.
Oh, how are you, Mr. Mitchell?
Fine. Are you available?
Oh, completely.
The company insures a Mr. Nathan Swing, former resident of Los Angeles.
Where's he living now?
He isn't. His body was found floating in the Los Angeles harbor.
How did he get there?
Somebody shot him first. Check with Sergeant Matthews, Central Division Homicide. He'll give you all the details.
I'll get on it right away.
I'd like to borrow a few moments from our show to ask you a question. Suppose a little man with 3 arms and 5 eyes should skim past your ear in a flying saucer and ask you, what is the biggest business on earth? To be truthful, you would have to tell him that the biggest business in our world employs about 350,000 people, handles 25 billion items every year, transacts $14 billion worth of business in all of its 43,000 branch offices each year, but never clears a profit. Well, maybe such a business sounds out of this world to you, but it actually exists and functions. That big business is the United States Post Office Department, headed by the Postmaster General. Naturally, the work of the post office isn't only the collecting and delivery of mail. Some of the employees of the post office are bookkeepers. Some are engineers. Some plan building layouts and devise gadgets to give you better mail service. Others keep mailbox keys and locks and the 5 million mail bags in good condition. And here's an interesting sidelight for you. Did you know that mail bags have 13 stripes on them to represent the 13 original states? The Post Office Department has many other types of employees, such as the Post Office Detective Force or Postal Inspectors. Their job is to see that no money is stolen from the mail and to track down racketeers who try to sell worthless merchandise by mail. Then there are the workers in the Postal Savings Department. That's a government-operated savings bank with branches in the various post offices. It comes under the supervision of not only the Postmaster General, but also the Attorney General and the Secretary of the Treasury. All in all, the Post Office Department of our United States government is a mighty busy organization, working on behalf of each and every one of us.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Great Eastern Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Nathan Swing matter. Expense account item 1, $198.35. Plane fare and incidentals from Hartford to Los Angeles. Approximately 7 hours and 15 minutes after leaving a cold and rainy New York airport, I stepped off the plane into a 75-degree California spring afternoon. I rented a car, drove to my hotel, registered, and called Sergeant Matthews at the City Hall. At 2 o'clock, I was sitting in the squad room of Central Division Homicide.
Well, there's all we got on Swing. We knew him pretty well. Been picked up 4 or 5 times in minor charges. 1 conviction, bookmaking, June of 48. Shot once in the chest, once in the right shoulder.
You got any leads?
Well, nothing definite. Ever heard of Jimmy Durando?
Yeah, big operator out here, isn't he?
About the biggest. Stooley claims a couple of Durando's boys made contact with Swing. Of course, we can't prove it. As far as we know, Durando hasn't ever had too much to do with Swing. Swing used to book his bets, but they're never very friendly. Swing's small time, not the type that would particularly appeal to Durando.
Then why have him killed?
I don't know. But something's happened that involves Durando. It happened right after this killing. Daniel Fletcher, special investigator on a vice crusade, has been after Durando for a long time. And Durando is due to appear before the committee tomorrow. You seen the morning paper?
Fletcher calls off Durando investigation.
Huh. In his statement to the press, Fletcher said he felt there just wasn't enough evidence to warrant investigation.
Well, what did he call the investigation for in the first place?
Yeah. I know Fletcher pretty well. He'd never have gotten a subpoena for Durando unless he figured he had enough to convict him. Now he calls it off. The morning after, a small-time hood named Swing is pulled out of the bay.
Well, there may not be any connection.
May not. So far, that's all I've got. And I have to solve a killing.
Fletcher is an honest man?
I've always thought so. Done a fine job so far.
Well, I got a job, too.
Going to see Fletcher?
I thought I might. Any objection?
Not to seeing Fletcher. But if you decide to pay Jimmy Durando a visit, tell me about it first, huh? That harbor at San Pedro is awful cold in the morning.
The sergeant gave me the address where I could find Daniel Fletcher. I walked over to the Equitable building on Spring Street. Fletcher's secretary informed me her boss wasn't coming into the office that day, so I checked back with the sergeant, and he gave me Fletcher's home address. I drove out to Beverly Hills and turned north off Sunset on a beautiful winding street fronted on both sides by big, expensive homes. The Fletcher house was the last one on the block, a white colonial set back a few hundred feet from the street.
Yes?
Is Mr. Fletcher in?
Who may I say is calling, sir?
Johnny Dollar. Tell him it's about...
Mr. Dollar, sir.
Yes? What can I do for you?
Well, I'd like to talk to you, Mr. Fletcher. I'm from the Great Eastern Life Insurance Company.
I'm not insured with your company.
Yes, I know.
Well, what do you want?
I'd rather talk to you alone.
That's all, William.
Yes, sir.
Couldn't we take this business up at my office, Mr. Dollar?
I went to your office. It's about a killing, Mr. Fletcher.
Killing?
A murder. A man named Swing. Nathan Swing.
And what's this got to do with me?
I don't know.
Come in. Now, what about this Nathan Swing?
Well, I thought maybe you could tell me.
What would I know about him?
Well, you know who he is.
I'm in the habit of reading the morning papers, but I'm not in the habit of discussing matters like this in my home. I think we'll let the matter drop until tomorrow. You can call my office for an appointment.
Okay. I'll see what Jimmy Durando has to say about it.
Now, wait just a minute. What do you think you're doing? What's all this about?
Well, I just said I was going to talk to Durando. If that makes you sore, I apologize.
What's Durando got to do with this killing?
I didn't say he had anything to do
Now,
with it.
listen, Dollar. I'm an old hand at beating around the bush.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean dealing with people who beat around the bush. I don't like it.
That makes us even.
And I don't like guys who try to throw their weight around.
Well, we agree on a lot of things.
What's the matter with you? Don't you like your job?
Oh, it's a living.
Well, I suggest if you want to keep it, you'd better start doing things a little differently.
I suggest you tell that to the people who pay me.
I had that in mind.
Well, suit yourself. I have to solve a killing. And until my company says lay off, I'm going right ahead.
I told you, Dollar, I don't like people pushing their way into my home.
Who pushed? You know, I think Sergeant Matthews had a pretty good hunch.
Matthews? What's he got to do with it?
Give him a call. He'll tell you all about it.
Dollar, I'm going to give you a warning.
Well, make it quick. I want to get out in the fresh air.
Dad,
Mary, what are you doing out of bed?
I thought maybe...
Sweetheart, get back up in bed. William, you shouldn't have come down, my dear.
Who are you talking to? Is it about Jimmy?
It's nothing important now. Come on, honey. William!
I feel so terrible.
Now, dear, it's all right.
Yes, it's Fletcher.
Take Miss Fletcher back up to her room.
I don't want to sleep anymore. I keep dreaming. Dad, please.
Come on now, dear. It's going to be all right. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hello, miss.
My daughter. I think you'd better leave now, Mr. Dollar.
I drove back to my hotel and put in a call to Sergeant Matthews. I told him about my interview with Fletcher and asked where I could find Jimmy Durando. He advised against it, but suggested the safest way to see Durando would be at night in Durando's restaurant. He gave me the address and promised to have a couple of his boys in the place just in case. I spent the rest of the day relaxing in my room, and around 8 went down to the dining room and had dinner. At 9:15, I walked into Durando's expensive restaurant. There was an empty stool at the bar.
Yes, sir?
Where can I find Jimmy Durando?
I don't know if he's in yet.
Take my word for it, he's in. Up to his neck.
I'm just a bartender, mister. You want Mr. Durando, you better handle it yourself. Now, do you want a drink?
Scotch and water.
Yes, sir.
The bartender brought me my drink, and in about 2 minutes, just as I expected, a well-muscled gentleman walked up behind me and breathed down my collar.
Good evening.
Yeah, it is.
I understand you're looking for Mr. Durando.
Well, you've understood just right.
What do you want to see him about?
Nathan Swing.
Okay. Let's go. What's your name?
Johnny Dollar.
You a cop, Mr. Dollar?
Insurance investigator.
Waiter. Okay.
Sit down, Mr. Dollar.
Thanks.
Tony says you're an insurance investigator?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Just what are you investigating?
A murder. Nathan Swing's murder.
Why come to me?
You don't know anything about it?
Well, I heard somebody killed him, but I couldn't care less.
You knew him?
Slightly. I never shook hands with him. I'm surprised your company would insure a crime like that.
Who are you insured with, Mr. Durando?
I carry my own insurance.
You must pay pretty high rates.
What do you mean?
Well, one day it looks like you're going to be locked up for keeps. The next day, the whole thing's called off. You got a pretty good policy.
I thought you came here to talk about Nathan Swing.
I thought I was.
I don't know what all this is about, Dollar, but I don't like you. You want some advice?
Oh, by all means.
Don't bother me anymore.
That sounds a little bit like a threat, Mr. Durando.
I'm glad you noticed.
So am I. Well, see you around. Oh, now, Tony, you're not being very nice. How am I going to open the door with your big stomach in the way?
You want him to open the door, Mr. Durando?
You can open it for him.
Thanks, Tony.
My pleasure.
I walked back to the dining area and started for the front door. Then I saw her, crossing the room in my direction. The same girl I'd seen that afternoon standing on a staircase and looking very sick. Mary Fletcher, Daniel Fletcher's daughter. I watched her walk back to the hallway that led to Durando's office. I waited in front of the cafe for 20 minutes, and finally she came out. She looked sicker than she had that afternoon. She climbed into her car and drove west. I followed. She drove to the beach and parked at the end of a deserted fishing pier. I got out of my car and walked through the darkness to the end of the pier. She was standing near the rail, looking down at the water.
No, let me go.
Come on, stop
Let
it.
me go away.
Take it easy. I'm sorry I had to hit you, but a high dive never solves anything. Come on. Let's go sit in your car. Come on. Go on, move over.
Why did you stop me? Why did you let me jump?
Now, just try and relax. Here. Have a cigarette.
Oh. Who are you?
You saw me this afternoon at your father's. My name is Dollar.
You should have let me jump. I couldn't have done anything then.
Who couldn't have done anything?
Oh, please, I don't know what I'm saying. Please take me back home and just leave me alone.
It might help you to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about anything. I just wish I were dead. I wouldn't have to talk about anything or think about anything.
Come on now. Get hold of yourself.
Who are you? What do you want? What are you doing here?
I'm an insurance investigator.
Insurance?
I followed you from Durando's. I'm investigating the death of Nathan Swing. Did you know Nathan Swing?
I only saw him once.
When was that?
The night I killed him.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? On August 2nd, 1923, his oath of office was administered by his father, a justice of the peace. Within 3 years after he became president, the national debt was reduced by $2 billion. His presidency was marked by continued national prosperity. The country's income increased, and the people's wages were high. He improved relations between the United States and Mexico with the help of his goodwill ambassador, Dwight Morrow. He was known for his dry humor, common sense, and the faculty for measuring his words before he spoke. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more clue. During his administration, the Soldiers' Bonus Bill was passed. Who was he? Calvin Coolidge, 30th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mary Fletcher sat in the darkness facing me. She wasn't crying anymore. If she were telling the truth, I'd found the murderer of Nathan Swing.
That's right. I killed him. I don't know why I'm telling you. This will ruin my father. I just have to get it out in the open. I can't keep it locked up anymore.
Well, why don't you tell me the whole thing?
All right. I'll have that cigarette now.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. You'd have found out sooner or later you saw me at Jimmy's.
Durando's?
Yes. I've been seeing Jimmy for quite a while. I know it's pretty terrible. I guess I knew how wrong it was when I was seeing him.
Your father didn't know about it.
No. He didn't find out about it until Jimmy told him.
Puts Durando in a pretty nice spot. Going around with the daughter of the man who's trying to send him to prison.
I'm not going to try to justify it. I was in love with him.
And he told your father?
He told him I'd killed Nathan Swing.
So your father called off the investigation?
Protect me. I would have come right out and admitted everything, but I knew what the publicity would do to my father's career.
Durando's blackmailing your father?
He has the gun I used.
How did it happen?
Well, I'd never seen this Nathan Swing before. I was with Jimmy one night, and Swing came in and said something about a bet. Something about some money that he had coming. There was an argument, and this man, Swing, pulled out a gun. Jimmy grabbed him, and they began fighting. Jimmy knocked the gun out of his hand, and when Swing hit him and grabbed one of those pokers from the fireplace, I got the gun and shot him. He just kind of stood there for a second, and...
What did Durando do?
I don't remember too much about it. I got hysterical, and Jimmy put me in my car and told me to go home. Not to say anything, if he'd take care of it. I wanted to go to the police right then, but Jimmy said it would ruin Dad. I don't know what'll happen now. I've told you, and it'll ruin Dad anyway, but I just can't keep something like this quiet.
Only trouble, if you make a confession to the authorities now, Durando's in a better position to beat the rap. Your father still won't prosecute for fear of what Durando might bring out at the trial.
What can I do?
Just keep quiet for a little longer.
How will that help?
Durando hasn't got a thing if he hasn't got the gun you used.
Nobody's ever going to get that gun away from Jimmy.
Well, it's worth a try anyway.
You mean you're going to... Why should you try to get the gun? What difference does it make to you?
Guys like Durando make a lot of difference to me.
But he'll still swear that I killed Swing.
Without the evidence, it'll be your word against his. You can lie for a little while. You can lie long enough for your father to prosecute Durando. After that, you can go to the police and tell them the truth.
I don't think my father would do it under those circumstances.
I think he would. I'll have a talk with him. I think he'll go after Durando just like he's always wanted to. The only thing that's stopping him now is that gun.
What are you going to do?
See Mr. Durando again.
Be careful.
I always try. I watched her turn out on the Malibu highway and head back for town. Then I drove my rented convertible back to Durando's cafe. It was close to 1 in the morning when I pulled up across the street and sat for a while trying to figure out what to do. An alley ran between the cafe and another building. I remembered Durando's office. He'd been sitting with his back to a window that faced an alley.
That thing's ready to crack up.
She won't.
How can you be sure? You saw her tonight. You really think she can hold out long?
Look, it's my neck. I got to do the work.
I got a stake in this, too, remember.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
I'm going to shut the window. Look, as long as you're worried, why don't you just...
I couldn't hear them anymore, so I stayed close to the building and looked in. Durando had crossed to a wall safe and was taking something out. It was a snub-nosed .38. He crossed back to his desk, put the gun in a box, and handed it to Tony. Tony nodded and left the office. Tony wasn't hard to stay with. I picked him up in front of the cafe and tailed him east across town to the Union Station. He headed for a row of public lockers and stopped at one. What you got in the box, Tony?
Huh?
Let's have it. Running down the ramp to the passenger tunnel. At the end of the ramp, he stopped and drew his gun. After the shot, he turned into one of the tunnels and ran up to the loading platform.
Tony!
Tony was dead. The yard would be full of cops in a few minutes. I didn't want to hang around to make explanations. I took the box with the gun in it and cut across the yard.
Sergeant Matthews.
This is Dollar.
Oh, I was just on my way out. I've been trying to get you.
I'm calling from a gas station phone booth. I want Durando's home address.
I don't think I should give it to you.
Look, I'm onto something.
I know. I had 2 men staked out in Durando's tonight. They saw the Fletcher girl come in and reported you followed her.
She's home by now. I'll tell you all about it after I see Durando.
Okay. I have to check on a shooting at the Union Station. I'll meet you in my office in an hour.
No, meet me at Durando's in an hour.
All right. He lives in Beverly Hills, 1818 North Foothill.
Thanks. I couldn't tell Matthews about the shooting until I'd seen Durando alone. And when he found Tony in the train yard, he'd be over to Durando's soon enough anyway. I drove out Wilshire and turned north when I reached Beverly Hills. I found Durando's house and parked on a side street. The house was dark. Durando was obviously either in bed or still at the club. I climbed the high fence and dropped down into the garden, cut across the flower beds to the rear of the house, and located the big French doors that led to the study. I tried them, but they were locked. I was just turning away when...
Oh. You're pretty clumsy, Dollar.
Yeah. But you're not, Durando.
Who hit you?
You're kidding?
No, not a bit. One of my guards found you lying on the terrace and brought you in here. You're lucky you're unconscious or he would have shot you.
Well, it looks like you're going to take care of that anyway.
You're trespassing. It'll be very legal.
Oh, that's a new wrinkle for you.
Who hit you?
Well, if you don't know, I certainly don't.
Where's Tony?
How do I know?
I found the box lying next to you. Where's the gun?
Well, if it's not in the box, I couldn't tell you.
You killed Tony?
Unless he's got 9 lives.
How'd you find out about the gun?
You got an alley in back of your cafe.
You couldn't have heard much. You must have talked to Mary.
Suit yourself.
Okay, get up.
Now tell me all about it, or I'll blow you apart right here.
Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I do know where that gun is.
I doubt it.
I don't think you'll take a chance.
I've been taking chances all my life, Dollar. And you know, I'd like to kill you.
The police will be here any minute.
Yeah, sure.
I called Sergeant Matthews right after Tony died at the station. How do you think I got your address?
I want to know where that gun is.
And you better ask the guy who hit me over the head.
All right. You're going to get it right in the face.
No, he isn't.
She'd been standing back in the shadows near the door that led to the hallway. When she stepped out, she was pointing the snub-nosed .38 right at Durando's middle. He turned, and they both fired together. Where did he hit you, Mary?
He deserved it, didn't he?
Where did he hit you?
The side. Is Jimmy?
Yeah, I think so.
He did deserve it, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did.
I'm sorry I hit you in the dark. I didn't know.
It's all right.
I went home. Started worrying about you. I went back to the cafe, and he wasn't there. So I came here. Saw you sneaking through the garden.
Now, just take it easy.
I found the gun in the box. Tell Dad I'm sorry about it.
Mary. Mary. Durando was dead, and Fletcher wouldn't have to prosecute. After he buried his daughter, Fletcher closed his office and took a long vacation. Maybe it helped some, but I doubt it. Expense account item 2, $45.75, hotel bill and incidentals. Item 3, $35, car rental. Item 4, $156.85, plane fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $435.05. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Clayton Post, Tim Graham, Dick Ryan, William John Stone, Virginia Gregg, David Young, and Jay Novello. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.